Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Pada Shankaram Loka Shankaram Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yatkripatamaham Vande Paramanandamadhavam Paramanandamadhavam. So by the logic of Anvaya Vitireka, Anvaya co-presence, Vitireka co-absence, we can very clearly determine. What can be very clearly determined? That raga, attachment, ichcha, desire, sukha, sorrow, joy, dukkha, sorrow, only these four. Add other things, bhaya, right? Then what? Prema, anything, just keep adding, whatever. All of them are what? All of them belong to the mind intellect. In other words, they are all but thoughts, and they are not the essential properties of me. Even though I may say I am sad, I am happy, I am angry, I love, I hate, all these things we say, but they actually do not belong to the self. Very clearly by Anvaya Vitireka we can see. What is this Anvaya Vitireka? Co-presence, co-absence. As we saw, in waking state, Atman is there, mind, intellect is there, then raga-dvesha, sukha-dukkha-adi are there. When you go to dream state, Atman is there, mind, intellect, mind is there, intellect may not be there, mind is there, and then raga-dvesha, sukha-dukkha-adi are there. You go to deep sleep, Atman is there, mind, intellect is not there, raga-dvesha, sukha-dukkha-adi are not there. In other words, you can see the co-presence and co-absence of mind and intellect and raga-dvesha, sukha-dukkha-adi. Co-presence means what? Mind and intellect there, raga-dvesha, sukha-dukkha-adi are there. Mind, intellect not there, raga-dvesha, sukha-dukkha-adi are not there. So there is Anvaya and there is Vitireka. Of what? Mind, intellect and raga-dvesha, sukha-dukkha-adi. There is no Anvaya of Atman and Vitireka of Atman and raga-dvesha, sukha-dukkha-adi. You see? You cannot say, when Atman is there, raga-dvesha, sukha-dukkha-adi are there. When Atman is not there. No, Atman is always there. But what comes and goes? Mind and intellect comes and goes. And when mind and intellect comes and go, what happens? Raga-dvesha, sukha-dukkha-adi also come and go. Therefore, the experience of aham sukhi, aham dukhi is false. It is actually mind is sukhi, mind is dukhi, and because of imagination, because of ignorance, I think Aham sukhi, aham dukkhi. Clear? Now explaining further, who is this actually sukhi dukkhi? Mind has got sukha dukkha. But who is that who is telling aham sukhi, aham dukkhi? Who is telling that? That is jiva. Now that process is explained. How is it explained? It is said that Atmaa satchidamsha, meaning the reflection of consciousness, which is consciousness, which is also existence. The reflection of consciousness falling upon the mind gives that brings that I to the level of the mind intellect. This identifies with the mind intellect. And identifying with the mind intellect, what happens? This I gets that identification with the activities of the mind intellect. What are the activities of mind and intellect? Mind and intellect, they has their its own activities, and it also is a bhoga sadhanam. Mind and intellect has got its own, its own things like love and hate and, like and dislike, all those things is there. Fear, and then overconfidence, lack of confidence, everything is there in the mind and intellect only. So identifying with that, which identifying, jiva identifying with all these, undergoes lots of changes. If there is confidence, I am confident. If confidence goes away, I am diffident. If love comes, I am a loving person. If hate comes, I hate. All kinds of things go on. That is identification with the mind intellect happening to the jiva. Not only this, the mind and intellect uses the senses to come to know this or that of the world. Then through the eyes, when the mind and intellect comes to see something, it will say, I see. Actually, senses, instrument is sense. Mind is using the senses to know. So the knowledge is arising in the mind. But what will happen to this jiva who is fallen at the level of the mind and who has identified with the mind and intellect and all these things? It will say, I see. I hear. So when it sees, I becomes the hearer. I becomes the hearer when it sees. When it sees, I becomes the seer. When the mind and intellect through the ears hear, I become the hearer. So the I continuously keeps on changing. And what is this I which continuously keeps on changing? It is a jiva. Now what is the problem? The problem is I have taken myself to be jiva. That is the problem. What is the solution? You have to understand, I have to understand, I am not the jiva, but I am the param-aatma, Satchidananda. Naham jiva paratmeti nyataschet nirbhayo bhavet. Through all these things, you should also note one thing. When there's a reflection of consciousness in the mind intellect as jiva, only then mind and intellect gets the capacity to do all the things. To use the senses and mind and come and know, hear, everything happens. So there is a purpose served by that. At the same time, there is also the coming together of the consciousness and the mind and intellect. This is what is written in the book, Unholy Wedlock of the Spirit and the Matter. You see? Pure spirit is not there. Matter by itself can't do anything. But when matter and spirit comes together, what is matter and spirit coming together? The spirit, consciousness, appearing as reflected consciousness at the level of the mind and intellect. And then what happens? It becomes identified. The light from the sun falling upon the waters gets inextricably mixed with the water. In the same way, it gives appearance of that. Light and water can never mix. Light is light, water is water. You can't mix light and water like you put salt in water and then you mix it and then it goes together. No, it doesn't happen like that. But it gives the appearance of being one. This is an appearance. Nevertheless, you can't separate it. Experientially, they become one. In understanding, you can know light and water are different. In understanding, in experience, you can't find that out. Therefore, what should be done? Don't try to separate. You can't do that. It will be one. You can't separate. The ice, when you see that light has fallen in the water, it will appear to be one. You can't do anything about it. Don't waste your time there. That can't be solved. What can be solved? Understand, you are not the jiva. You are the Sachidananda. That is where the solution is. So this is the essence of the 3 verses. What is the nature of the self? Prakashorkasya toyasya shaityam agner yatoshnata swabhava sachidananda nitya nirmalata atmanaha. Atmanaha swabhavaha. The self's nature, not guna. Self's nature, swabhava. The self's swabhava, its real nature. Its real nature means what? Never can the self be other than this. It has to be this way. Like how the nature of the sugar is sweet, salt is salty. You can't take it out. In the same way, the nature of the self is what? Sat, Chit, Ananda, Nitya, Nirmala, Nitya Nirmalata. The ta is adjective. Ta is adjective means what? It brings that sense of it is like that. That is verse number 24. So these many verses, 24, 25, 26 and 25, 26 and 27, we have seen. It is those 3 core verses of Atmabodha. Please reflect upon it again and again, because in this you will find what is the problem, what is the actual solution, how everything works. Everything is explained in one go. It gives total clarity over things. Okay? Now we will go forward. Let us read the verse.
Aatmaa ava-bhaasayati ekah buddhi-aadini.
Can you do one thing? Atmaa ava-bhaasayati ekah. Let them repeat. Buddi-aadini indriyaani. Let them repeat. Deepo ghat-aadi-vat. Meaning every pada, let them chant once. And then one time together, you chant together. The same way how we used to do.
Yes. Aatmaa ava-bhaasayati ekah buddhi-aadini indriyaani. Deepo ghat-aadi-vat swaatmaa jadaih-ava-bhaasyate. Aatmaa ava-bhaasayati ekah buddhi-aadini indriyaani. Deepo ghat-aadi-vat swaatmaa jadaih-ava-bhaasyate.
Deepah ghat-aadi-vat. That is the example. Deepah means what? Light, a lamp. Deepah ghat-aadi-vat. Ghat-aadi-vat, gata is pot. In so many times you will find gata-pata, like that you will find. That is like, a phrase, idiomatic expression. Gata-pata, it rhymes also. Gata means pot, pata means cloth. Right? Cloth, pata is cloth, like that. In other words, a lamp which is placed in a room, a good lamp, effulgent. What does the lamp do? It throws its light on all of it and illumines all the objects. One lamp. illumines all the objects of the room. Deepah, ghat-aadi-vat. Now one more thing. One lamp illumines all the objects. So you can see. But tell me one thing. This ghata-pata and all other objects, can they illumine the lamp? No, they don't. In the same way, ekah Aatmaa. Aatmaa ava-bhaasayati ekah. Ekah Aatmaa, one self. O-N-E, one, space, S-E-L-F. One self. The single self. Aatma, ekah Aatmaa, buddhi-aadini. Budhi-aadini, buddhi, manaha, prana, indriya. You understand these terms? Budhi-aadini, indriyaani. All the senses also. Eyes, ears, nose, those senses. Hands, legs, etc., those senses. All of them, it illumines. One self illumines all these. What are all these called as in one word? Can you tell me? Upadhi. All these upadhis. All the upadhis. But how these upadhis are? Jadaih. They are all jada, inert. Inert means what? Have no inherent capacity to know. Why is it that they are inert? Have no inherent capacity to know? Because they are all made of matter. Matter is inert. These which are made up of inert matter, the upadhis, they themselves cannot know. They are all illumined by the pure self. That is one thing. Another is what? Jadaihi taihi na ava-bhaasyate. By those inert, swaatmaa, the self, your own self, yourself. Even though we say yourself, you should not think yourself is like your book. When I say your book, what does it mean? You are separate, book is separate. But when I say yourself, what I mean? You yourself. That's the meaning of it. Yourself is not illumined by all these upadhis. One consciousness illumines all upadhis. Stula, sukshma, karana, sharira. Or say, annamaya kosha, pranamaya kosha, manomaya kosha, vijnanamaya kosha, anandamaya kosha. Or you want to take individually, you say, deha, mana, or deha, prana, indriya, mana, buddhi. Even avidya of deep sleep, even that also. All of them are illumined. It illumines, one consciousness illumines all the inert, and these inert which are illumined by that consciousness do not have the capacity to illumine the consciousness. You remember one example you had used in your discussion? The torch and the battery. The torch, the battery powers the torch and it can see, it illumines all objects. But the light coming from there cannot illumine the battery. If you say, Swamiji, I will design the torch in such a way. Yeah, of course. But you are just, the concept is important. The example is not important. You should always understand, example is for illustrating a point, for clarifying a point. More than that, example does not work. Here also, you know, there will be limitations in examples. But that's not the point. Now, if none of them can illumine the consciousness, none of them, mind cannot illumine the consciousness, so I cannot know it with the mind. Intellect cannot illumine the consciousness, therefore I cannot know through my intellect. Senses cannot, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin cannot illumine the consciousness, therefore I cannot use my eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin to illumine, to know the consciousness. And the question will come, how then will I know the consciousness? How then will I know the self? Will it remain totally unknown like this? That is being taken up in the next verse.
Swa-bodhe anya-bodhecchhaa bodha-roopa-tayaa Atmanah na deepasya anya-deepecchhaa yatha swaatma prakashane Swa-bodhe anya-bodhecchhaa bodha-roopa-tayaa Atmanah na deepasya anya-deepecchhaa yatha swaatma prakashane
Yata deepasya swaatma prakashane na anya-deepasya ichcha. Are you understanding Sanskrit? Very easy, okay? Please don't think Sanskrit is very... Yata. Yata means what? Just as. Tata? So too. Yata tata. They are complementary words. Yata deepasya. Deepasya for the light. Swaatma prakashane, to illuminate. Anya-deepa na-ichcha. Anya-deepa na-ichcha means what? There is no requirement. You don't require one more lamp, one more light to see the light. Now to see this book probably, I need light. I need light. Otherwise I can't see. But to see the light, do I need a torchlight? I don't need. Why? That light is swaprakasha, swayam prakasha. It is swayam jyoti. If you want to tell in English, it is self-effulgent. It is self-luminous. It is self-lit. It is of the nature of light. To see something which is dark, dull, inert, you need to see other objects, you need a light. Yes, that deeper is required to see ghat-pata is required. But to see, yes, those ghat-pata cannot see the deeper. But to see this deeper, do you need one more deeper? You don't need. Why? Because it is self-lit. If you have understood this, to see the body, to experience the mind, to have the knowledge of your senses, and also the external world, you need the consciousness. Without the consciousness, nothing can be experienced. But to experience the consciousness, you need none of these instruments. Not only they will be able to see, it's impossible for them to see. But also one more point, you don't need them. Why? Consciousness is self-lit. In the light of consciousness, borrowing that consciousness, the mind and intellect first becomes illumined. A little bit of the light of consciousness falling, diffusing through the mind and intellect into the senses gain the capacity to know. A little bit diffusing. But that consciousness is of the nature of effulgence. It is self-lit. A wee bit coming, everything becomes alive. And it starts knowing. What about that consciousness? To know it, do you need any other light? No. Why? It is self-lit. Swamiji, logically it is fine. Experientially I am asking. This is good. Example is good. Everything is fine. In other words, you are telling, to know myself, Satchidananda Param-aatma, I don't need anything. It is shining by itself. Where it is shining, Swamiji? Where it is shining? Now when you are asking this question, where it is shining, you are trying to use your intellect to know. Correct? Oh, problem hai. Then how do I know? I can't see with my eyes, I can't smell it with my nose, I can't hear it with my ears, etc., etc. And then you are saying the question I am asking itself is wrong. How do I know when I'm asking? You're using intellect. Question itself is wrong. But how do I know? One, none of these will help you know. Because they can't illumine. Next, you don't need them to know. How that's Swami? You remember in our discussion, I had used one example. I didn't bring my pen. That doesn't matter. I will change the example. Pavam. What is there in my hand only I can tell. I see the plate. Okay? I, jiva, reflected consciousness. Did I tell reflected consciousness is called chidabhasa? Did I say that word anytime? No. Chit abhasa. Chit is consciousness. Abhasa is reflected consciousness. Jiva. Okay? So when I say, I know this plate. So I is the jiva. Know is the thought. Plate is the object. Now suppose I take it off. Now what will I say? I do not see the plate anymore. I don't see the plate. I see the plate. I don't see the plate. To see the plate, mind is required. To see the plate, that jiva is required. But behind this thought, I see the plate, there is one supporting factor which is not a thought. I know the plate, yes. I don't know the plate. But there is, I know that I know the plate. I know that I don't know the plate. I know, but that I know is not a word. It is yourself. To know this, you don't need intellect. You don't need mind. Because it is not a thought. If it were to be a thought, you need the mind. If it were to be a color, you need the eye. If it were to be a sound, you need the ear. If it were to be a smell, you need the nose. But it is neither color, nor a sound, nor a smell, nor a taste. But it is that because of which you know a color, you know a taste, you know the smell. And it is not a thought. It is when I say I know the plate, I am trying to only explain to you. But that is not a thought. It can't be captured in a thought. It is your own existence. It is just plain simple you yourself. It's just Sat Chit Ananda. It just is. In that presence, everything happens. The jiva functions. The mind functions. The senses function. Everything functions. But it just is. More than this cannot be explained. But this is the truth. You have to get it intellectually first. You have to get it intellectually. What I am saying, you have to understand intellectually. Next, what you should do, then you should intuitively experience it. I said first, understand, and then stand under. That is the meaning of it. First you understand what I am saying. Then afterwards, I can't say you experience it all, because all the while, experiencer is what? Experiencer is the jiva. This is the truth of that jiva. It is that substratum. Many times we miss the substratum because we pay attention to the objects in the substratum. It is very silent but very loud. Which one? This pure existence. Nothing happens without it empowering. And therefore, its presence cannot be ignored. Nevertheless, our attention is always on the ego or the thought or the object. Mostly on the object, rarely on the thought. And usually we don't even think of such things as the jiva, chidabhasa, reflected consciousness. We don't even think of such things. This is not there at all. If this itself is so subtle, that consciousness, that pure existence, which is what I am. I can never be without that existence. I am can never run away from me because I am that. I am that consciousness, that amness, what I am experiencing of myself, can never be disintegrated, can never be separated from the awarefulness, chitta. That is what I am. And to know this, you don't need the senses, because it is without the senses. It is beyond the senses. It empowers the senses. But it itself does not come in front of the senses, for the senses to know or the mind to know. So to understand this, any thought is okay. Take any thought, any experience. What is that which is experiencing this experience? Catch that. What is that which is witnessing this knowledge? In fact, ignorance also can be taken as an object. No problem. As I said, I do not know the plate. Ignorance. But this self is neither knowledge nor ignorance. It is consciousness. Because when I say I don't know the plate, that is ignorance. What is that which knows that I don't know the plate? That consciousness never is absent of consciousness. The Upanishads would say, Nahi vijñātuhu vijñātehe viparilopo vidyate. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. This pure consciousness can never be without consciousness. That consciousness of that pure consciousness of the self never ceases. The lamp and all those things are example. You can switch off and then lamp light will go away. You can never switch off consciousness. You can switch off the ego, the jiva. When you go to sleep, the mind and intellect resolves back to the karana shareer. And when the mind and intellect resolves back to the karana shareer, then the reflected consciousness which is there in the mind, where will that be? It can't be there. And that is why the jiva bhava is not there in the deep sleep for all of us. Everything can go, but that pure consciousness can never go. Who is illumining that there was no jiva bhava in deep sleep? That illuminator you can never shut off. That remains. That is the self. That is consciousness. That is Satchidananda. That is Param-aatma. That is Bhagavan Krishna. That is Lord Shiva. That is Narayana. That is you. Tat Tvam Asi. All right? Tat Satyam Sa Atma Tattvamasi Shveta-keto. Rishi Uddalaka. Chandogya Upanishad. Shveta-keto is the son. The father is Uddalaka. He is the guru. Son is the student. Tat Satyam. That is Satya. Sa Atma. That is yourself. Hey Shveta-keto. Tat Satyam Sa Atma Tattvamasi Shveta-keto. Okay? First understand, and then intuitively experience in your own heart. In your own heart means what? Don't search for the blood pumping heart. It's neither in the auricle nor the ventricle. Someday I have a problem with my valve, I hope there's no problem anybody has got. It's not inside. When I say heart, in the core of your personality, you experience it. Right within your mind and intellect, you experience it. Swa-bodhe anya-bodhecchhaa bodha-roopa-tayaa Atmanah anya-deepecchhaa yatha swaatmaa prakashane. You remember there was one verse where this Swayam Prakasha came. Swayam prakashate Aatmaa megha-payem shumaniva. When the clouds move away and the sun is shining, to see the sun, you don't need any other light because the sun is self-effulgent. Self-effulgent means what? It shines by itself. It has got a natural effulgence. That's called self-effulgent. It's not a borrowed effulgence, but a natural effulgence. So how do I know this param-aatman? Now it is all confused with our other experiences. We have identified with the body, identified with the mind, so everything is coming together and messing the whole thing, our self-experience. What should be done? Next verse.
Nishidhya nikhila-upaadheen
Nishidhya nikhila-upaadheen
neti neti ti vakyatah
neti neti ti vakyatah
vidyadaikyam mahaa-vaakyaih jeev-aatma param-aatmanoh
jeev-aatma param-aatmanoh
Nishidhya nikhila-upaadheen neti neti ti vakyatah vidyadaikyam mahaa-vaakyaih jeev-aatma param-aatmanoh.
Neti, neti. Have you heard these famous lines? Neti, neti. Not this, not this. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Okay? Neti, neti. That's a very famous line. What is the self? What is the Atman? Not this, not this. Meaning, neti, neti iti vakyataha, through your understanding of this great Upanishad statement like neti, neti, what you should do? Nikhila-upaadheen nishidhya. Nikhila-upaadheen nishidhya means what? Negate all the upadhis. All the upadhis. The stula sharira, sukshma sharira, karana sharira. Negate. Negate means what? Disidentify. Don't identify with that. I am the body. No, give it up. That will confuse. Nishidhya. Give it up. Let us say you are meditating. Body awareness, drop. Don't drop the body. Body awareness, drop. This body is required for you to realize the self. Huh? Give up the body. Give up the body, give up identification with the body. Stula sharira. Sukshma sharira also. Give up identification with thoughts, including the thought, I am meditating on the self. Including the ego. Now, I went for one camp, Atmabodha. Wow! What I experienced. I learned so much. Now, what am I? I am a learned Hindu. Before that I was ignorant. Now what I am? I am Sachidananda. We give up one ego and take up another ego. That is this big problem. Keeps on changing. Nishidhya nikhila-upaadheen. Give up identification with the body, identification with the mind, Identification also with the feeling I am a spiritual seeker. That is also ego. That is also because of identification. Nishidya nikhila-upaadheen neti neti iti vakyataha. All upadhis. And then what? Mahaa-vaakyaih. Through the great mahaa-vakyas. What is mahaa-vakyah? Mahaa-vakyah does not mean big sentence. Vakya means sentence. Mahaa-vakyah means big sentence. All these vakyas, mahaa-vakyas are very, very short. Tatvamasi, 3 words. Aham Brahma Asmi, Prajnanam Brahma, then Ayam Atma Brahma, then Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya is not Mahavakya. Only 4. That is also not a Mahavakya. What is Mahavakya is any statement in the Upanishad which tells your true nature as that Supreme Brahman, that is called a Mahavakya. Okay? These 4 are famous because each one is picked up from one Veda. From Rig Veda you have Rig Veda, Aitreya Upanishad you have Prajnanam Brahma. From Yajur Veda, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad you have Aham Brahma Asmi. From Sama Veda, Chandogya Upanishad you have Tattvam Asi. From Atharva Veda, Mandukya Upanishad you have Ayam Atma Brahma. But don't think that is all the Mahavakyas. Every Upanishad will have a Mahavakya. Because why? Every Upanishad tells you about your true nature. These 4, one from one Veda representative. Like how when you are said, group 1, please come and explain. All of you don't come here. One person comes. One person is representative. That's all. How many Mahavakyas are there in the Upanishad? Oh. So, Nishidya nikhila-upaadheen neti neti iti vakyataha, using such great statements. Using great statements mean what? These statements like neti neti, which help you understand that you are not the upadhis, apply them. Don't just read intellectually. Do it. When you say I am not the body, give up identification of the body and be. Do it. That is called spiritual practice. Not just studying, by hearting, memorizing. Important, I am not going to leave you without all those things. But that's not sufficient. That's only sadhana. But actually what you should do, give up the identification. Drop the body awareness. Drop the mind awareness. Drop the intellect awareness. Drop the ego awareness. All of them are upadhis. Give them up. And then, once these confusing identifications are all gone, through the Mahavakya, what you have gained by your study of Vedanta, vidyat aikyam mahaa-vaakyaih, jeev-aatma param-aatmanoh, you understand your true nature to be one with the Supreme Self. Not just understand, just live that understanding. First you understand, then you abide in that understanding. Understand and then stand under. Okay? This is what is to be done. Now explaining that more and more, okay, and then under giving also the implications, you have a few verses. Let us start first with the 30th verse. Or 31st, sorry.
Avidyakam shareer-aadi drishyam budbuda-vat etad vi-lakshanam vidyat aham brahmeti nirmalam.
Brahmeti nirmalam.
Avidyakam shareer-aadi drishyam budbuda-vat etad vi-lakshanam vidyat aham brahmeti nirmalam.
Avidyakam shareer-aadi drishyam. This is the logic. What is the logic you have to apply to give up identification with the body, mind and other upadhis? What is the logic? They are all drishya. Why do you say I am not the body? Because the body is drishya. What is drishya? Seen. I, the seer, cannot be the seen. Seer and seen are different. Both cannot be together. They both cannot be one. If something is seen, it is different from the seer. Use this. Use this means what? So when the body awareness is coming, what you do? I am not the body. Why? Because the body is experienced. I am the experiencer. I am the witnesser, that is the witnessed, experienced. Everything, a thought comes, don't identify. A thought comes means what? Suddenly you are meditating. A thought comes, what? What if I get up and then go to the dining hall and see if anything is there to eat? But whatever is there, it is not hot, Not hot. It should be hot. Mind goes, in our, everywhere it is, like this one. Probably ashrams like that only, Who knows? But I do not know how, some food is interesting. One more thought will come. That, that was very, very good. How that gajar ka halwa, kitna badhiya tha. Wow, I had 2-3 katoris I had. Ooh. Where it goes, somewhere. And that is called meditation. You are meditating on objects only. Whenever any thought comes, disidentify. Why? This is an object. I am the subject. I am in search of the, not the known, I am in search of the actual witness, the knower. In this way, all the upadhis give up. Not only that, how are they? Budbuda-vat ksharam. Budbuda, this word had come before? Like the bubbles. Budbuda-vat ksharam. It will come, it will go. It is not steady. It will come, it will go. Nothing is permanent. Etat vi-lakshanam vidyat. Other than these, other than the body, other than the mind, other than the indriyas, other than the thoughts, etat vi-lakshanam vidyat. Come to know that. Vi-lakshanam. Vi-lakshanam means what? This is the drishya. Vi-lakshanam, drik. Do you understand these words? Drik, drishya? Drik is what? Seer. Drishya is what? Seen. I am the drik, vi-lakshanam. And going to the drik, going to that seer, understand it as what? Aham, that drik, Brahma iti nirmalam. That aham drik is the nirmala. Nirmala means what? Untouched, pure, untainted, untainted. One more word can I use in English? Immaculate. Immaculate. It's a beautiful word. It's a untouched, absolutely pure, immaculate, untainted, undefiled, pure consciousness. Swamiji, where did you get all these words, Swamiji? I got all these beautiful, beautiful words from this book. And only this book. When our Gurudev used to speak, his English was very, very high-flown English. He was a newspaper journalist also, So, and he was he did masters in English and all. He was and he had a flair for language. His descriptions used to be so beautiful of anything and everything. Even if he describes a cat, it will be so beautiful. You will see that cat live in front of you. Like that you would describe. I can't tell you. You have to watch his videos. Luckily, videos are there. Not every video, whatever was available later in the 1980s, 1990s, those videos are there. Otherwise, he started sharing this knowledge from 1950. And when we were, I think of your age mostly, I would think. Anybody here 15, 16, 17? No, nobody is there. Luckily for me, it happened like that. When I was so young, I used to listen to, when we used to go and listen to Pujya Gurudev's talks and all those things. And gradually, See, I was a young boy. I have studied only up to 12th. I have not gone to college and everything. In my young age, I went to ashram to study Vedanta because of Gurudev's grace. But being with Gurudev, so much I learned. Now, I am saying all those things that sometimes you may find this book, English is difficult. Don't give it up. You will also learn. And you are young. When you are young, you get fast. When you grow old like me, thoda slow hota hai sab. Walking also becomes slow, sitting also slow, everything becomes slow. But at this age is an age you can get everything. Okay? So read good books, and nothing can become more good than works of great masters like Swami Vivekananda, Swami Shivananda, Sri Ramatirtha, right? Gurudev Swami, Chinmayananda. And therefore, whatever possible, read now. Don't delay. When you go to Chinmayavani, see what all good books are there. If you want, you take your sevaks. They will tell you this book contains this book contains this. And based on your interest, you get. And you study. Right? That pure consciousness, nirmalam, understand that. That is that Brahman. That is the Supreme Brahman. Take this spiritual journey. Okay? Avidyakam shareer-aadi. What is Swamiji? Avidyakam. Avidyakam means what? Due to ignorance. Because of ignorance. Shareer-aadi. All the shareera, mana, buddhi, indriya, etc. with which we identify because of ignorance as I. All of them are drishyam. They are all drishya, seen. Budbuda-vat, like bubbles. Ksharam, perishable. Etat vi-lakshanam. Other than this, vi-lakshanam. Totally different. Totally different means what? Vi-lakshanam. Vi-lakshanam means what? These are all drishyam, but this is drik. This is all budbuda-vat, ksharam, perishable like bubbles. This is an imperishable truth. These are avidyakam, caused because of ignorance. This is the very source of knowledge, the very pure consciousness. These are all inert, whereas this is the self-effulgent awareness, consciousness. And that self is what? Brahma, is a supreme Brahman. Aham Brahma. In this way, you understand. When you disassociate from the body, what all ends? That's the next verse. You can do one thing. 31, 32, you should read them together. Sorry, 32, 33, you should read them together. anya-vatvat.
Deha-anya-tvaana me janma.
Vana me janma.
Jara-karshya-laya-adayah.
Jara-karshya-laya-adayah.
Shabda-adi-vishayai sangah.
Shabda-adi-vishayai sangah.
nir-indriya-tayaa cha. Deha-anya-tvaana me janma. Jara-karshya-laya-adayah. Shabda-adi-vishayai sangah. nir-indriya-tayaa cha. Amanas-tvaat me dukkha.
Amanas-tvaat me dukkha.
raga-dvesha-bhaya-aadayah.
raga-dvesha-bhaya-aadayah.
Aprano hyamanah-shubhrah.
Aprano hyamanah-shubhrah.
Ityadi shruti-shaasanaat.
Ityadi shruti-shaasanaat.
Amanas-tvaat me dukkha.
raga-dvesha-bhaya-aadayah. Aprano hyamanah-shubhrah. Ityadi shruti-shaasanaat. 32. Because I am not the body, what is the implication of negating the identification with the body these feelings should cease. What are they? Dehanyatvaat, because I am not the body, janma, jara, karshya, laya-adayah. Janma, birth. Therefore, never consider yourself as having birth. Today only I celebrate my birthday. That is for the body. I am not born. That should be there. I am not born. Janma. Jara, getting old. I am old. That feeling should not be there. Karshya. Karshya means what? Tiredness. Laya. Laya means death. In other words, all these things which go with the body, never should there be a thought, an identifying thought. Because dehanyatvat, I am not the body. Chayate, asti, vardate, viparinamate, apakshiyate, vinashyati, shadvikaravat, stula shareeram. Where? Atmabodha. What does this mean? All the various modifications which are in the gross body, I don't have any of these. So, any thought of this nature, which is of the identifying thought, you should be able to cut it off. Why? I am not the body. That is called as standing under. Just saying I am not the body is one. Dropping all these foolish thoughts is another thing. If you say I am not the body, do you really believe in it or you're just saying? If you are believe in it, if you truly feel it, never for a moment we should have any thought saying I am so and so. Nir-indriya-tayaa nacha. Nir-indriya-tayaa. Because I am not the indriyas, then what? Shabda-aadi vishayi sangha. Never give place to attachment with shabda, sparsha, rupa, rasa, gandha. Why? I am not the indriya. This is the practice of Vedanta. This is the implication of that disidentification. The next verse. Because I am not the mind, Amanas-tvaat, name dukkha, raga-dvesha-bhaya-aadayah. None of these things are mine. Why? Because I am not the mind. In this way, the shruti, the Upanishads. In what way has the Shruti explained this? Aprano himana shubbraha ityadi shruti-shaasanaat. Because the Upanishads have detailed this and explained this elaborately. This quotation is from Mundaka Upanishad. Aprano. Aprana means what? I am not the prana. The self does not have prana. It's not the prana. It's not associated with prana. Amanaha. Indeed, he, amanaha. Amanaha, the self is not having mind. It's not the mind. It's not associated with the mind. In this way, the Shruti, the Upanishads, explains lovingly to all those students who seek self-knowledge. Swami, why is he giving quotation from this Upanishad and all those things? Because Upanishad is a source text. 3 source texts, remember. 3 source texts. Atmabodha is not a source text. Source texts are called Shastra Grantha. Derived texts are called as Prakarana Grantha. Atmabodha is a derived text. Derived text, what is source text? First source text. 1, Upanishad. 2, Bhagavad Gita. 3, Brahma Sutra. They are called Prasthanatraya. The 3 foundational texts. Okay? They are all called Shastra Grantha. These are all Shastra. Shastra means what? Completeness. There is complete knowledge. There's a full there. From that, you have derived texts, which deal with some aspects, which help with some basics. Sometimes basics, sometimes little more elaborate also, but they are based on these texts and they help to clarify those texts. Atmabodha, Tattvabodha, Aprokshanubhuti, Viveka-chudamani, so many texts. Dashashloki, Aprokshanubhuti, did I say? Aprokshanubhuti, Vakya-vritti, Lagu-Vakya-vritti. So many texts. These are all written by Bhagavan Shankaracharya. Others also have written Upadesha-sara, Ramana Maharishi, Saddarshanam, Ramana Maharishi, Vedanta-sara, Swami Sadananda, Advaita-siddhi, Madhusudana Saraswati. So many texts, so many masters. Panchadashi, Swami Vidyaranya. More are there? Many more are there. These are all what? Prakarana Grantha. Derived texts. What is the function of it? Some function. Either to clarify something. For example, Tattvabodha only deals with terms and terminology. That is the purpose. Atmabodha deals with concepts of Vedanta we are studying. Upadesha-sara deals with overall understanding of the paths. Karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, raja yoga. Overall understanding. Like that, different texts. Viveka-chudamani gives an overall presentation of the Vedantic path. Viveka-chudamani. Like that. Many texts. Jivan Muktananda Lahari speaks about the bliss of the man of realization. Many texts. These are all Prakarana Grantha. And therefore, when Prakarana Granthas are written, then the author will quote the Shastra Grantha to say whatever he is saying is in agreement and in line with the Shastra Grantha. Because that is the authority. You understand? So therefore, aprano hyamana shubraha ityadi shruti-shaasanaat. In other words, what did we see in these two verses? How to apply the knowledge that we have gained in actual spiritual practice. In other words, be alert of every identification. That is the spiritual path, that is the spiritual. Be alert of every identification. When you say, I am hungry, what you should say? Swamiji, I am hungry is I am hungry only, what can I do? You say, hunger belongs to pranas. You say, no, I am not hungry. Pranas are hungry. Swamiji, we want to play now, Swamiji. Now, that is, don't say, I want to. You can say, I, but in your understanding what should be there? It is all belonging to upadhis. I understand, Swami. Be careful. You never understand. You are the pure self. Vedanta, very subtle. Understanding belongs to the intellect. This is the practice of Vedanta. Our Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda used to say beautifully, he says, alert, vigilant living itself is sadhana. We think sadhana is some meditation practice you do, some japa you do, some temple you go. Alert, vigilant living itself is sadhana. Every thought you be alert. Every process you be vigilant. That is sadhana. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.